Selamat siang Bapak dan Ibu semua. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih telah bergabung pada webinar Queensland Hour siang ini. Nama saya Irma Irsyad, saya adalah Principal Business Development Manager dari Trade Investment Queensland atau kami biasa disingkat dengan TIQ. Kami adalah kantor perwakilan pemerintah Queensland yang berlokasi di Jakarta. Pada sesi ini nanti akan bergabung juga Mr. Wayne Striplin. Mr. Wayne Striplin adalah International Operations Manager dari Strategix Training Group yang nanti akan menjadi sebagai pembicara kita pada sesi ini. Judul webinar kami hari ini adalah Workforce Development in Indonesia and Competency-Based Training atau CBT. Kami juga akan membahas beberapa case studies dari Australia dan Vietnam. Sebagai latar belakang untuk Anda, TIQ Indonesia adalah kantor perwakilan pemerintah Queensland di Indonesia yang membantu untuk mempromosikan kapabilitas institusi-institusi Queensland di Indonesia. Tujuan diselenggarakannya webinar Queensland Series ini adalah supaya partner kami di Indonesia tetap bisa mendapatkan update dari Queensland, khususnya di bidang pendidikan dan pelatihan. Oleh karena itu kami akan mengundang pembicara yang berbeda pada setiap sesinya untuk beberapa bulan ke depan. Beberapa catatan untuk kelancaran webinar hari ini sebelum kita mulai. Sebagai informasi, sesi ini akan direkam untuk nantinya akan dipublikasikan untuk tujuan pendidikan, edukasi, dan akan dipublikasikan supaya partisipan yang tidak bisa hadir hari ini untuk dapat bisa menonton rekamannya. Speaker Bapak dan Ibu dan rekan-rekan semua juga akan di-mute, tapi Anda tetap akan bisa bertanya melalui Q&A box di bawah ini, di bawah screen Anda, kepada pembicara baik dalam bahasa Indonesia atau Inggris karena nanti kami akan menerjemahkannya kepada bahasa Indonesia. Tujuannya adalah untuk supaya apabila ada beberapa partisipan yang tertinggal di beberapa bagian untuk bisa dapat tetap untuk mengikuti. Tujuan kami adalah untuk menjadikan sesi ini informal sehingga partisipan hari ini dapat duduk dengan rileks sambil mengikuti webinar ini. Kalau perlu bisa Anda siapkan dulu teh atau kopi sehingga mungkin apabila itu dapat membantu Anda supaya dapat lebih konsentrasi karena ini habis makan siang ya. Okay, I'll turn to you, Wayne. Thank you for agreeing to be our speaker at this very first session of the TIQ Indonesia Queensland Hour. I'm sure that our participants today who come from different backgrounds within the logistic and transportation sector will be interested to know more about Strategix. So for your information, these are from companies, training organizations, and institutions, education institutions, both universities and vocationals. And we also have a number of reps from associations, state-owned enterprise, a few from the Indonesian government. So over to you, Wayne.
Well, all right. Thank you, Irma, for that introduction, and thank you everybody for taking some time out today to come and have a listen to some of the things that are happening in Australia and around the Apec region. But I'm one of the founding directors of Strategix Training Group, and we started our company in 2004. Training and developing a workforce is near and dear to our hearts, and that is why we're expanding our operation to train internationally. We've been working closely with the Trade Investment Queensland, trying to introduce ourselves to the marketplace in Indonesia and various other countries in the Apec region. One of the key things we can offer Indonesia is competency-based training in the transport and logistics space but also for people to come, live, work, and study in Australia. Once the COVID started to settle down, we'd like to invite some folks from Indonesia to come here. Our courses start from Certificate 1 up to a diploma. We also deliver short courses to a variety of industries, from business to the medical field, to include individual support, aged care, hospitality, food processing, process manufacturing, and again, transport and logistics, which will be our focus today. So a lot of our training can be done face-to-face or online. And we also welcome the opportunity to work with companies, industries, education institutions in Vietnam.
Thank you for that comprehensive information on Strategix, Wayne, and also your responsibilities at Strategix and courses available for Indonesians at Strategix. And what's available are various, from business, manufacturing, logistic, transportation, that we will be discussing today, and also as one of Strategic's strengths. So I'll translate it into bahasa Indonesia. So saya adalah salah satu direktur yang mendirikan Strategic Training Group pada tahun 2004. Pelatihan dan pengembangan tenaga kerja ini penting bagi Strategic. Oleh karena itu, kami memperluas operasi supaya pelatihan atau training kami bisa dilakukan secara internasional, tidak hanya domestik. Kami telah bekerja sama dengan Trade Investment Queensland untuk memperkenalkan diri kami di Indonesia dan pada beberapa negara Apec lainnya. Salah satu hal penting yang kami tawarkan adalah pelatihan berbasis kompetensi atau dikenal juga dengan Competency Based Training atau CBT pada sektor logistik dan transportasi, tapi juga kesempatan untuk orang Indonesia untuk bisa tinggal, belajar, dan bekerja di Queensland, Australia, tentunya setelah pandemi COVID-19 ini mereda. Courses yang kami tawarkan mulai dari Certificate 3 atau Sertifikat 3 sampai dengan level diploma. Juga kami melakukan short courses ke beberapa industri seperti business, medical fields, termasuk juga individual supports, aged care, hospitality, food processing, process manufacturing, tentunya juga logistic and transportation yang akan menjadi fokus Strategic hari ini. Kami menyambut baik kesempatan untuk bisa bekerja sama dengan perusahaan-perusahaan di Indonesia, industri, institusi pendidikan, baik itu vokasi ataupun pendidikan tinggi ataupun sekolah, BUMN di Indonesia, dan tentunya juga pemerintah Indonesia untuk dapat mensupport program ini untuk bisa tetap berjalan. For your information, Wayne, some of the participants here today have been to Queensland. Some are alumni from both Queensland or Australia, and some of them heard of Queensland before, some haven't. And I understand that they will be interested to know how Queensland is doing at the moment since the pandemic started, because I'm sure every country will have different situation, including Queensland in Indonesia. So what is the current situation at the moment? Perhaps you could share with us what has changed and how Strategic dealt with that changes, and where are you at the moment? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question, and we're kind of worried and trying to find out what's happening in Indonesia as well. But here in Queensland, we've been very lucky. We're thankful for our essential workers that have helped us through the pandemic, and it seems like we're coming out on the other side with very minimal cases, and a lot of our restrictions are being lifted. And in particular, on December 14th, we can actually start dancing. That's one thing that's we haven't been able to do, and we're very lucky to have something like that restored. The update, we're hoping the vaccine will come, and we'll look forward to the situation getting a bit better and better. But every organization, doesn't matter which type, we're facing some kind of barriers, especially when the COVID-19 first hit. And as a training organization, we had to really reflect and pivot to change from predominantly being a face-to-face delivery of training and assessment to an online version of training, which I'm sure most of you would have to do the same. Well, some of our barriers were we had to retrain our trainers because most of our trainers had been delivering face-to-face. So they had to come up to speed with technology quickly to be able to deliver and not have any gaps in the students' journey in the course that they were doing. So we chose a method called Watch, Do, and Zoom. And then later on, we called it Watch, Do, and Learn. So what that means is the students can actually watch a pre-recorded video in the morning, and then uh, after they watch the video, they'd actually look at some of the context of the subjects they were working through that day. And then later that afternoon, they would join a Zoom session with a tutor to go through the morning's watch and do, just to make sure we filled those gaps of what we were doing. So that's been working well, and that's helped us actually strengthen our online capability. You know, it was kind of difficult to pivot to start with, but it took us 3 to 4 weeks to change our entire curriculum. And as you can imagine, we had to work day and night to make sure that happened, so that all of our operations were not delayed in any way. I guess some of the valuable lessons we learned was to be more adaptable and flexible. And who would have thought that, you know, this time last year we would have been in a pandemic? But um, it's made us smarter, it's made us stronger, and appreciate the programs that we do have, and to continue to improve them. So that's a little snapshot of what's happening to us as a training organization in Queensland.
Thank you, Wayne. That sounds almost similar to what has been happening in country here in Indonesia. It was difficult for us in the beginning, but at the end we all made it, ya. So in Queensland, kami sangat beruntung memiliki bantuan dalam menghadapi pandemi ini. Queensland saat ini dengan kasus yang minimal dan beberapa pembatasan atau restriction telah dicabut. Saat ini kami dalam keadaan baik, dan tentunya dengan perkembangan vaksin pada saat ini kami berharap situasi akan jadi lebih baik, semakin lebih baik. Setiap organisasi apapun jenisnya akan menghadapi hambatan ketika pandemi ini melanda. Sebagai perusahaan yang bergerak di bidang pelatihan, kami harus berubah dari metode penyampaian pelatihan atau training sehingga assessment yang tadinya tatap muka itu menjadi full online. Jadi kami harus melatih ulang para trainer atau instruktur kami, karena kebanyakan dari mereka terbiasa dengan metode pelajaran tatap muka. Jadi mereka harus mulai bisa menguasai teknologi untuk dapat bisa berinteraksi dan mengajar mahasiswa secara online. Yang kami lakukan di Strategix adalah Watch, Do, and Zoom atau Watch, Do, and Learn. Yang terjadi adalah mahasiswa menonton video yang telah direkam sebelumnya dengan konteks yang akan dipelajari pada hari itu. Mereka mengerjakan tugasnya, sorenya mereka bergabung dengan tutor atau dosen untuk mengerjakan tugas berdasarkan dengan video yang mereka telah tonton pada pagi harinya. Pada awalnya tentu ini sangat sulit bagi kami. Ada sekitar 3 atau 4 minggu yang kami perlukan pada saat itu untuk melakukan perubahan drastis ini, mulai dari mengubah semua kurikulum, bekerja siang dan malam pada awal-awal masa pandemi ini supaya operasional kami di Strategix tidak terganggu. Tentunya dari pandemi ini banyak pelajaran berharga yang bisa kami petik. Kami menjadi lebih adaptif dan lebih fleksibel. Karena tidak ada yang menyangka bahwa pandemi ini akan melanda seluruh dunia. Jadi kami lebih cermat dan lebih hati-hati. Kami lebih menghargai program-program pelatihan yang kami miliki pada saat ini dan membuat kami bekerja lebih baik dan keras untuk menjadikannya lebih baik di masa yang akan datang. Wayne, does Strategic have any relationship or partnership that's currently going on, or have you completed any work or projects in Indonesia previously?
Thank you, Irma, for that question. Yes, we've been traveling to and from Indonesia since 2018. And in 2019, we were able to establish some relationships with industries and universities in a number of cities and towns from, hopefully I pronounce these properly, Salatiga, Sintang, Bali, Jakarta, and Pontianak. So we met some wonderful people there, and we're trying to continue to establish the relationships we have there, and also to invite people to come live, work, and study in Australia. But also some of the, there's opportunities for us to deliver some of the competency-based training onshore in Indonesia. So that's what we've been working quite hard on. And we've had some great conversations with people who are passionate about having Indonesia grow, especially in the training sector. There's some situations of where some of the folks we spoke to wanted to start a polytech with a focus on transport and logistics. And as this is emerging skill shortage in not only Indonesia, but in the Apec region, that everybody's trying to address to keep up with the global demand of logistics. So we've had a lot of communication, and we've also had some delegations from Indonesia come to Brisbane on a study tour, and we were able to show them and introduce them to industry in Brisbane and kind of highlight some of our competency-based training techniques and the modeling that we use here. So our connections that we have in Indonesia are well and truly established, and we want to continue to add to that relationship with Indonesia. So we're looking forward to 2021 and continuing our relationships. And also with some of the viewers today, we're open to starting some new relationships as well.
Thank you for that, Wayne. Kami sudah pernah beberapa kali ke Indonesia sebelum pandemik ini mulai, tahun 2018 dan 2019, untuk memulai hubungan dengan Indonesia. Kami mengunjungi beberapa industri dan beberapa universitas di Salatiga, Sintang, Pontianak, dan Jakarta. Tujuan dari kunjungan tersebut adalah untuk menjajaki keinginan supaya orang Indonesia untuk dapat tinggal, belajar, dan bekerja di Australia, di Queensland, dan juga peluang untuk memberikan pelatihan berbasis kompetensi atau competency-based training. Kolega kami di beberapa kota tersebut adalah para expert yang ingin sangat membuat Indonesia menjadi berkembang, khususnya melalui pelatihan di Indonesia. Ada beberapa institusi yang ingin mendirikan politeknik yang fokus pada logistik dan transportasi. Dan dengan adanya kekurangan keterampilan atau skill shortage di Indonesia pada saat ini, oleh karena itu banyak pihak yang berusaha untuk memenuhi kebutuhan industri ini. Banyak komunikasi yang telah kami jalin di Indonesia. Juga ada beberapa delegasi yang datang melalui program study tour di Queensland, di Brisbane. Kami telah perlihatkan dan kenalkan mereka pada industri di Brisbane. Mereka juga telah lihat teknik pelatihan atau training yang kami lakukan pada model competency-based training ini. Hubungan kami dengan Indonesia telah mulai dan kami ingin terus meningkatkan hubungan yang telah ada. Harapan kami pada tahun 2021, tahun depan, adalah untuk bisa tetap menjaga hubungan ini supaya berlangsung dengan baik dan kalau bisa memulai dengan hubungan yang baru tentunya.
So I guess I'll continue on here. And then next slides we had some delegations to come over. These were heads of the universities and directors of various colleges, and a few chairmen of the boards and their teams came to have a look at the facilities here in Brisbane and to see where students from their institutions would come. And they stayed in the student accommodation as well to check that out. And so it's a better to come to have a look, see, and feel of what it's like to be training with us. And some of the negotiations that we're currently working on, I know we're talking about transport and logistics today, but we're working in the medical field where some students who are enrolled in a nursing degree, a 4-year degree, they would do 2 years in their university in Indonesia, and then come and spend 1 year in Australia to live, work, and study in the medical field here. Then they would return to Indonesia to complete their nursing degree. So that's a program that we're working on with several cities, which we hope when the COVID dies down a little bit that we can actually resume those negotiations. So the delegations were also interested in looking at some of the large grocery chains that we have here. And in the picture on the left there is one of our largest stores, Kohl's. So they have a really huge distribution center. So they were able to have a look at the types of workers that are in there and ask questions about competency-based training and how do they skill their workforce and things like that. So these are the types of tours that can be organized when you're dealing with Strategix Training Group, and we're more than happy to look at that in 2021. And we encourage if you want to have a look, reach out to us, and we're more than happy to help.
That's wonderful. So there are communications and visits already happening between Indonesia and Queensland. So we're just looking forward for those communication to finally come into fruition in the future. So pada grup yang terlihat pada slide ini, ada dalam beberapa waktu yang berbeda, beberapa pimpinan universitas, direktur dari perguruan tinggi, chairman of the boards, mereka adalah para institusi yang ingin melihat langsung fasilitas kami di Brisbane sebagai persiapan apabila nanti rekan atau mahasiswa mereka datang untuk ikut dalam program kami apabila kerjasama nanti terjadi di masa yang akan datang. Jadi mereka ingin melihat dulu sebelum berpartisipasi dalam program tersebut. Negosiasi yang sedang kami lakukan adalah dengan beberapa universitas di beberapa kota di Indonesia yang telah saya sebut sebelumnya, seperti di Salatiga, di Sintang, Pontianak, Balikpapan, Jakarta, yaitu untuk mahasiswa sarjana 1, strata 1 keperawatan di Indonesia. Jadi rencananya adalah mahasiswa keperawatan ini datang ke Queensland untuk melakukan 1 tahun Certificate 3 atau Certificate 3 di bidang aged care sebagai bagian dari program strata 1 mereka di Indonesia. Selama di Queensland mereka dapat bekerja sambil kuliah pada beberapa bidang seperti aged care atau individual support, karena ada industri di Queensland yang dapat menerima mereka untuk bekerja di sini. Kembalinya mereka ke Indonesia setelah 1 tahun kuliah dan mengikuti pelatihan medis di Queensland, mereka kembali untuk menyelesaikan S1 mereka, strata 1 mereka, dan plus dengan pengalaman kerja 1 tahun selama di luar negeri di Queensland. Jadi sebagaimana yang Bapak Ibu bisa lihat di slide sebelah kiri ini adalah delegasi dari Indonesia yang berkunjung dan tertarik untuk berkomunikasi dengan salah satu grup supermarket terbesar di Australia. Kalau mungkin Bapak Ibu tahu Coles, mereka mengajukan pertanyaan tentang competency-based training atau pelatihan yang berbasis kompetensi, seberapa efektif model ini dapat membantu Coles dalam melakukan proses pelatihan tenaga kerja mereka, dan tentunya mereka bisa sharing juga dengan delegasi tersebut. Dan ini adalah jenis-jenis tour yang dapat kami organize di Brisbane. Begitu juga dengan program untuk tinggal, belajar, dan kuliah di Queensland. Wayne, you mentioned APEC earlier. I'm quite confident that most of us here, the participants, are heard of this before, but maybe we're not familiar with that term, APEC. It would be great if you could refresh our memory on this, APEC, and why should we use APEC standard in Indonesia?
Well, that's a great question. So the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, or APEC, is the regional economic forum that was established in 1989. I know I'm reading from the slide here, but it was to leverage the interdependence of the Asia Pacific region. The aim was to create a greater prosperity for the people of the region by promoting a balanced and inclusive, sustainable, innovative, secure growth, and by accelerating regional economic integration. So there's 21 countries participating within APEC. And also today, I guess we're going to focus on Australia, Indonesia, and Vietnam. I won't go through the other ones in the interest of time, but those are the other participating countries that you can see a look on the screen there, but focused on Australia and Indonesia today.
Thank you for that. So APEC atau Kerjasama Ekonomi Asia Pasifik adalah forum ekonomi yang didirikan tahun 1989 untuk memanfaatkan ketergantungan yang terjadi antar negara-negara di Asia Pasifik. Tujuannya adalah untuk menciptakan kemakmuran yang lebih baik bagi masyarakat pada kawasan ini dan mendorong pertumbuhan yang seimbang, inklusif, berkesinambungan, inovatif, aman, dan mempercepat integrasi kawasan ekonomi. Sebagaimana Bapak dan Ibu bisa lihat, ada 21 negara yang akan menjadi fokus kita hari ini adalah Australia, Indonesia, dan Vietnam. Sisanya adalah beberapa negara lain yang Bapak dan Ibu bisa lihat di slide tersebut. Kerjasama ini ada karena suatu alasan, jadi mereka bertemu dan membuat strategi. Kita dapat menggunakannya di pertumbuhan ekonomi yang bagus di Indonesia. Ini akan menjadi satu platform yang bagus untuk Indonesia bisa mulai menggunakan standar ini.
So to add to that, the APEC countries agreed upon a framework for education standards in the region to incorporate high schools, technical vocational education and training colleges, and higher education. Out of that came the 2016 APEC skills strategy. It was introduced. The introduction of the occupational standards for the regions was introduced, and we refer to them as the OS, or statements of activities and tasks related to a specific job to its practice. So for example, a training program or an OS in the APEC is the warehouse operator.
Thank you, Wayne. Kerjasama APEC, ada hal yang disepakati oleh beberapa negara tersebut adalah strategi untuk skill dan kerangka kerja pendidikan vokasi APEC untuk standar pendidikan di Asia Pasifik dengan memasukkan sekolah menengah atas, TVET atau vokasi, dan pendidikan tinggi. Tahun 2016 dikenalkan strategi APEC untuk skills. Di tahun yang sama dikenalkan Occupational Standard atau OS atau standar pekerjaan untuk wilayah APEC. OS adalah statement dari aktivitas yang terkait dengan pekerjaan tertentu dan prakteknya. Contohnya adalah keahlian untuk operator gudang atau warehouse operator.
So then if you look at the OS warehouse operator, which is a training package, underneath that, each one inside of the training package are the OSSs. And for example, inside of the warehouse training package, you might have units like pick and process an order, or operate a forklift, or conduct a stock take. So the training program is the OS, which is the statement of activities and tasks related to a specific job and to its practice. And then they also have underneath that a number of OSSs, or units of competency, that covers elements, performance criteria required for the OSS. So the Apec have released a number of these occupational standards and OSSs, and they're available for member countries to use. And that's in every field, you know, like hospitality, aged care, retail. There's a number of other packages available for the countries to use.
Thank you, Wayne. That's a very clear explanation on APEC. So it's much clearer now, and I hope that will do too for our participants today. Selain itu, operator gudang OS atau warehouse operator adalah pada dasarnya adalah paket pelatihan. Setiap OS termasuk sejumlah occupational skill standard atau OS atau standar keterampilan kerja. Misalnya pada OS operator gudang adalah OSS, seperti memilih dan memproses pesanan atau order, mengoperasikan forklift, dan melakukan inventarisasi. OS adalah seperti yang telah saya singgung sebelumnya, pernyataan aktivitas dan tugas yang terkait dengan pekerjaan tertentu dan prakteknya. Sedangkan OSS adalah unit kompetensi yang mencakup elemen dan kinerja yang dibutuhkan untuk OSS. Apec telah merilis atau mengeluarkan sejumlah OS atau standar pekerjaan yang dapat digunakan oleh negara-negara anggota Apec. Dan ini dapat dilihat untuk membuat paket training atau short course, dan tentunya dapat mulai digunakan di Indonesia. Dan ini bukan hanya di bidang logistik, tapi di bidang hospitality atau bidang retail dan beberapa bidang lainnya. So move on further into our discussion.
So an example of some of the things that we've been doing, we actually did a case study in Vietnam. So Vietnam are concerned about the transport and logistics side of it. So we had a 3-year collaboration with Vietnam to introduce competency-based training and assessment in the logistics industry. So we used the OS, or the training package warehouse operator, and we trained 22 trainers and lecturers in the OSS. So this is the lower, this is one of the units inside of that package, operate a forklift. So these people had never driven a forklift before. So we taught them the theory and practical of operating a forklift. We then asked them to create and design a short course. Once they designed the short course, we asked them to deliver it to real students at their colleges. So we selected 2 colleges to actually run this trial on, and they delivered the theory and practical to the students. And we also invited 4 companies to come along and validate the training to ensure that they were on the right track of creating a course that was relevant to the industry in 2019. So of the 16 students that enrolled into the OSS, operate a forklift, they all passed. Of the 16 students who completed the course, they were all offered jobs from the logistics industry. So proving that competency-based training is needed in Vietnam.
Oh, that's very impressive. 16 out of 16 offered jobs right after the course. Vietnam adalah salah satu negara anggota Apec yang tertarik dengan competency-based training atau pelatihan berbasis kompetensi. Mereka telah mengundang Australia, mengundang Queensland untuk membantu mengenalkan model CBT ini terhadap mereka. Dan kami telah berkolaborasi selama 3 tahun terakhir di Vietnam dengan menggunakan OS, warehouse operator atau operator gudang. Kami melatih 22 trainer atau instruktur dan dosen mencakup OSS, yaitu forklift. Kami memberikan mereka teori dan praktek bagaimana mengoperasikan forklift. Setelah itu kami tugaskan para trainer ini untuk membuat short course. Setelah itu mereka harus menyampaikan short course ini dan mengajarkan OSS yang tadi mengoperasikan forklift kepada mahasiswa real students pada beberapa institusi vokasi yang berpartisipasi pada trial tersebut. Setelahnya kami undang 4 perusahaan, beberapa perusahaan, jadi masing-masing institusi vokasi mendapatkan 4 perusahaan untuk memvalidasi pelatihan tersebut, untuk melihat apakah ini relevan dengan industri. Setiap institusi mengirimkan 16 mahasiswa yang ikut pada course mengoperasikan forklift tersebut, dan 16 mahasiswa tersebut lulus, dan luar biasa dari semua detail pekerjaan oleh beberapa perusahaan logistik tersebut. Dan ini adalah bukti bahwa competency based training atau kompetensi atau pelatihan berbasis kompetensi ini berhasil di Vietnam dan mungkin juga bisa berhasil di Indonesia. So Wayne, are there any other programs available?
Yeah, for sure. And I guess these programs that we delivered in Vietnam are possible programs that we can actually introduce in Indonesia. But the Vietnamese and Australian governments introduced 3 other courses. One was the Introduction to Logistics, where teachers and lecturers were able to study in Vietnam for one of the activities. The second activity was they traveled to Australia to visit education institutions, logistics companies, port operators, and transport companies, so they could get a good feel of the international flavor of what's happening in Australia, and took some of those learnings back to Vietnam. The third activity for the Introduction to Logistics was to put those businesses together to help design short courses for Vietnam. The second course was the Introduction to Competency-Based Learning and Assessment. And this course helps them to design competency-based training and assessment. Also, we had Train the Trainer courses where we were able to help existing teachers and lecturers in Vietnam become competency-based trainers and assessors with the Apec standards. So those are some of the things that are available to Indonesia as well.
Thank you, Wayne. Pemerintah Australia dan Vietnam telah melakukan 3 course lainnya, yaitu Introduction to Logistics, di mana dosen, trainer, dan instruktur belajar di Vietnam untuk aktivitas pertama dari unit ini. Pada aktivitas kedua, para dosen dan instruktur tersebut datang ke Australia. Mereka berkunjung ke beberapa lembaga pendidikan, perusahaan logistik, operator pelabuhan, dan juga pengusaha perusahaan transportasi untuk bisa merasakan sendiri lingkungan dan pengalaman internasional di Australia. Pada aktivitas 3 adalah menggabungkan pada perusahaan-perusahaan ini untuk membantu membuat sendiri short course di Vietnam ketika mereka kembali ke Vietnam. Yang kedua adalah Introduction to Competency-Based Learning and Assessment. Setelahnya Train the Trainer, kami membantu dosen dan instruktur yang ada di Vietnam untuk dapat menjadi trainer dan asesor yang berbasis pada competency atau competency-based training. Who were teams involved in carrying these projects in Vietnam, apart from?
Yeah, our Australian team incorporated the Strategix training group. Myself, I was one of the lead trainers that go over from Strategix, but also we have some support teams left in Australia. We also had a counterpart from the Queensland University of Technology, Professor Lou DeCastro Miles, and she was one of the lead trainers and course designers to accompany us on these projects. And our key function was to make sure that we customized short courses, and we worked against or alongside of the Apec framework. We didn't want to be delivering Australian courses. We wanted to highlight the Apec standards so that the teachers and the trainers could deliver a Vietnamese course. And I think that's something that we'd look forward to Indonesia doing as well, and making sure that there's an Indonesian context to it and not doing what we do. Just taking out some of the parts that you think you like, and using the Apec framework, we would train you, and then basically you would add in the local flavor.
Totally agree with that. Some things that may work in other country may not work well with others, so it needs to be customized. And untuk project di Vietnam, saya sebagai lead trainer, dan tentunya kami punya counterpart yaitu Queensland University of Technology atau QUT. QUT adalah salah satu universitas di Queensland. Saya dibantu oleh Profesor Lou Miles untuk memberikan pelatihan selama kami di Vietnam. Kami pastikan bahwa short course ini menggunakan kerangka kerja Apec dan tentunya untuk memasukkan konteks lokal. Dan tidak lupa untuk memasukkan bagian-bagian terbaik dari pengalaman kami selama di Australia dan tentunya Vietnam. Kami pastikan bahwa ini tidak akan menjadi course yang berbasis atau berstandar Australia, tapi dengan sentuhan dan rasa lokal atau local context di Indonesia. So Wayne, we almost come to our last part of this session. What do you think will be the next step for Indonesia? What will be the possible program for us?
Yes, thank you, Irma, and thank you for everyone who's tuned in today. My hope is that if anything, I've put in a thought process that in where you're thinking, what's possible for Indonesia, where to from here. A starting point would be getting to know the Apec standards. I would encourage that. If you know what you need to develop your workforce standards, I believe the Apec standard is a good starting point for vocational training and workforce development. And a possibility to do competency-based training in Indonesia, you could use some of the examples that we have in Australia, some of the examples that we used in Vietnam, and bring your own unique Indonesian flavor to it to actually suit Indonesia. So we could possibly have some pilot train-the-trainer courses in logistics. We hope to open the lines of communication and collaborate with one another, and have some of the teachers and lecturers come and visit and do a study tour in Australia and Brisbane. We'd love to host you. And maybe you can take some of those things that you see in Australia back to Indonesia, and we would love to work together with you. And we hope that we will see the future is very bright. And I think your president really is pro training and development, and trying to make sure that Indonesians are skilled in the right programs. So hopefully we've gave you some thought to think what is possible.
Thank you, Wayne. Pertanyaan saya untuk para partisipan yang hadir pada hari ini adalah apa yang mungkin kita lakukan, akan kemana setelah ini, setelah Bapak dan Ibu mendapatkan beberapa informasi dari webinar yang kami lakukan hari ini. Ini adalah merupakan titik awal untuk mengetahui apa itu standar Apec, dan juga untuk mengetahui apakah Anda sudah mengenal lebih jauh standar tenaga kerja Anda apabila Anda bekerja di satu perusahaan atau institusi pendidikan atau organisasi training dan lainnya. Dan saya yakin bahwa standar Apec akan menjadi titik awal untuk training vokasi, pengembangan tenaga kerja atau workforce development, kemungkinan untuk melakukan competency based training atau pelatihan berbasis kompetensi di Indonesia, mengacu pada contoh case study di Australia dan Vietnam, dan kami telah membuat beberapa model. Kami akan membuat beberapa model yang nantinya akan dibuat dengan disatukan dengan konteks dan sentuhan lokal dan yang sesuai dengan Indonesia. Bisa juga dengan program pilot program Train the Trainer di bidang logistik untuk Indonesia, membuka jalur komunikasi dan kolaborasi dengan dosen, trainer atau instruktur untuk dapat datang ke Queensland melalui beberapa program seperti program study tour yang dapat kami arrange di Strategix. Anda bisa lihat bagaimana kami melakukan model ini di Queensland. Setelahnya mungkin bisa bawa balik ke Indonesia apa yang Anda anggap bagus dan cocok dan sesuai untuk dilakukan di Indonesia. Dan melihat potensi Indonesia, saya yakin ini bisa dilakukan, apalagi Presiden Jokowi saat ini fokusnya adalah skill workforce development, ya tentunya sangat cocok, dan saya melihat ini adalah potensi yang sangat bagus dan akan bagus untuk dilakukan di Indonesia. Well, I hope that a useful session for everybody who present today, and I hope that information given by us and Wayne is useful. We open the session to question and answer today, and if we haven't got chance to answer the questions today, we'll reach out to you personally after the session. Because after the session, I'll be sending a follow-up email and a survey to all of you who are present today. So I could see one question in the question and answer box. So the question is, Wayne, how can I have the information about the program in Indonesia, such as what requirement for organization in Indonesia to be involved in the program?
Well, that's a great question. I think if you contact Irma, we can actually get together and talk about what it is that what's interesting about the programs we were highlighting today, and it's simple as actually looking at what angle you're coming from. You know, is it workforce development? Is there something that you're wanting to get up and running? Is there a skill shortage in the region or the city that you live in? Is there something that you can actually collaborate with employers on as well? One of the things that we do is we work closely with employers, and they kind of give us the flavor of what they need, and from that we design programs to suit, from a short course to a certificate, whatever the requirements are, to actually meet those workforce requirements. So we're happy to discuss those and go through Irma and the Trade Investment Queensland to get something up and running for you. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you so much, Ibu Retno Astuti, for that question. After this session, we'll be in touch with you personally, so we could discuss further on what a possible program we could arrange for you. And next question. Thank you for this question. Where can I see the recording of this webinar so I could share with my colleagues and friends as well? Thank you, Pak Sanjaya, for the question. We'll be publishing this in our TIQ Indonesia Study Queensland YouTube channel. And we'll be sharing the link after this session. So you should be able to see that within the next couple of days or so. So I'll be sending you email to all participants today, and you'll be able to see that link of recording of the webinar. And thank you for the intention of sharing that with your colleagues and friends. And Wayne, there's another question, but I think you have answered that earlier. Are you willing to collaborate with any Indonesian institution on competency-based training?
Thank you for that question. That's a great question. Our answer is 100% yes. We're happy to talk with institutions in Indonesia. Australia and Indonesia are very close. You're in a very important trading partner with Australia. And if we can share some of anything that we have to make our trade backwards and forwards be more effective and more efficient, that's what we'd like to do. So, and I think that's the purpose of Trade Investment Queensland, is to try to bring more companies and entities together.
Thank you, Wayne, for that answer. That's really good. And someone also asked, what other country within the Apec region, apart from Australia and Vietnam, that are currently using Apec standard?
So currently we're working with the Philippines, and they already have competency-based standards, but they're trying to standardize everything across the whole country, which is very difficult to do. And they've adopted the CBTA, the Apec CBTA standards, and we're doing some work with them. And we also have students from the Philippines who live, work, and study with us in Brisbane. So the Philippines is a good example of that. And of course, we've mentioned Vietnam, and I think we're on the right road for Indonesia. This could be a good opportunity.
Thank you, Wayne. So saat ini salah satu negara yang tertarik untuk melakukan pelatihan berbasis dengan Apec standard adalah Filipina, dan mereka sudah lumayan advance dalam standar ini. Dan saat ini Strategix Training Group sedang bekerja dengan beberapa universitas di Filipina, dan saat ini ada lumayan banyak ya students atau mahasiswa dari Filipina yang belajar dan tinggal di Queensland, tentunya belajar pada di Strategix Training Group. Thank you for that. So terima kasih sekali lagi Bapak Ibu atas waktunya telah berpartisipasi pada webinar kami kali ini, Queensland Hour series. We really appreciate it, and I hope to see you in one of our Queensland Hour session in the future with TIQ Indonesia. So I'd like to thank you again, and also for our speaker today, Wayne Striplin. Thank you so much. So we'll see you again.
Makasih banyak.
Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.